Hello, I'm Nuala Fitton, and I'm a lead analyst in the agriculture sustainability team.
Hi, I'm Garima Joshi and I'm a principal analyst in the same team.
As part of our work, we undertake analysis of how policies, greenhouse gas emissions, transition costs, climate change impact on yields, and carbon market mechanisms interact to shape and accelerate the transition towards a sustainable future. We recently authored our Outlook report for 2026 titled What's on the Menu for Agriculture Sustainability? So, Garima, why don't you kick us off with some interesting developments from our report?
Sure, Nola, sustainability in agriculture is increasingly defined by its capacity to build resilience into farming systems. In 2025, value chains face disruption from policy shifts to economic volatility. But with the increasing recognition of the risks that climate change poses to agriculture, companies and governments are focusing on long term strategic planning and risk management. At the field level, building resilience involves maintaining soil health, promoting biodiversity, and optimizing water use, the very foundations for productivity and sustainability. Implementing sustainable agricultural practices to build resilience leads to change in yield, emission reduction targets, and costs. However, costly practices may become more efficient over time, particularly as exceptional harvest in climate vulnerable regions can mask underlying risks. Take India. Record rice and corn yields are often offset by rising input costs, climate risks, and land fragmentation. Positive margins today may erode by 2034, with economic viability increasingly reliant on policy support. Therefore, despite good crop years, natural, structural, and operational risks threaten long term food security. India's rice yield could drop by 25% over the next decade due to climate sensitivity. An aging farmer population and shrinking landholding make adaptation even harder. On top of that, post harvest losses and poor infrastructure further erode income stability. But now, let me ask you, Nola, how are companies working to tackle climate change given these risks?
Well, Garima, a key trend in 2026 is agribusinesses are moving from competition to coalition, forming partnerships to scale nature positive solutions. Collaboration, in particular, is accelerating across Europe and North America and really gaining traction in Asia and Africa. These partnerships range from the advancement of research and development to building capacity in relation to data collection and scaling emission reduction initiatives. In Asia, the private sector commitment to reducing emissions has surged tenfold in the last 5 years. This is evidenced by the number of companies setting science-based targets, particularly from the manufacturing and consumer goods sectors. Regulatory measures and supply chain demands are accelerating this shift, positioning Asia as a pivotal for reducing Scope 3 emissions. In terms of research and development, the biologicals market, including biostimulants, is expanding, driven by supportive regulation and technology innovation. And new products like RNAi-based biofungicides and peptide biocontrols are coming to market. However, harmonized definitions and regulations are needed to streamline adoption. Now, one downside of the technology revolution is the emergence of new and complex challenges. A key issue expected to intensify in 2026 is a rising energy demand from AI systems and data centers. This surge can worsen water stress in agriculture, particularly across Europe, the US, and Asia, as large cooling systems compete directly with farms for limited water resources. But despite this, Garima, what are the opportunities emerging in 2026?
One of the key trends for 2026 is the potential for Brazil to win the trade race through expanding exports to China and other markets. But rising demand risks increased emissions and deforestation. The good news is, if restored, Brazil has enough degraded pasture land in the range of 27 million hectares to expand production without further deforestation, supporting both trade and climate goals if restoration projects are scaled nationally. On the other hand, many major sustainability related policies, such as the EUDR, are currently under debate, amendment, or pending ratification, with the timing of their implementation remaining uncertain. Despite this, in other areas where policy and company level ambition intersect, we see that investment in sustainable agriculture is gaining momentum driven by carbon markets and innovative finance. Direct payments and subsidies for farming are now including new incentives for practice change from insetting and offsetting projects. Policy support is also growing in line with private sector demand for market integrity and guidance. Additional support is coming from the eligibility of nature-based solutions under Article 6 of the Paris Agreement and strong momentum in the EU. This is the end of today's discussion. Thank you for watching and see you next time.